Well, hello everyone. Sorry, I know there was like a little technical difficulty there, but this is our conversation with Gary called "How to Unleash Your Unique Superpowers."
So Madison is working now. The earpod it should show up on yours, right?
Oh, now it is.
Cool. All right. So should Nor stop screen sharing?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I'm realizing that. Yeah, it's better to see people's faces. That's cool.
Yeah. All right. And then if you go to the next slide, you can read off a bio for Gary.
We'll figure it
out. All right. Gary Sheng is the COO of Civics Unplugged. Before co-founding Civics Unplugged, Gary served as a software engineer team lead at Google, as well as the co-director of Dancing Pineapple, a popular electronic music blog and live events company, followed by hundreds of thousands of feel-good music lovers. He was also recently named to Forbes 30 Under 30. And this is Gary. Gary, is there anything else you want to say about yourself before we get started?
No, why don't we just jump right in?
Okay. If you go to the next one, yeah, I'll just like brief really quick how to participate. I know a lot of you all were at the last conversation, but just bear with me for a second. So first is Nearpod, which you all have already done by joining the Nearpod lesson. Next is the Collaborate boards. You can respond to questions using the Collaborate board in Nearpod. That's where we will pose a question to you and you will type in your answer and all of the answers will pop up on the board and Gary will interact with those answers as well. And then after that is follow-ups. If you have a follow-up question or comment, just feel free to unmute and jump into the conversation. And if Gary has a question for you, he will let you know. And yeah, that's about it. We can go ahead and get started with the actual icebreaker now.
So what is something that is really underrated?
Gary, what's your answer?
Really? Do we have music, like Jeopardy music?
No, we do not.
Da, 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 da.
You can be the music.
Yeah, you can be the music, Jeff.
Yeah.
I might say Instant Pot, even though I think a lot of people like Instant Pot. Like I don't know how I would live alone without Instant Pot. I kind of make everything with it, like sometimes desserts, a lot of soup and stews.
Gary, I was expecting a deep answer after you were like sitting there. And
okay, all right.
I agree.
Journaling is super underrated. Smoothies. Oh, I haven't had a smoothie in forever. Luna Lovegood in the Harry Potter series. I agree. Rice cooker. Nice. Along the same lines. I feel that. Food. Culinary arts are such an awesome way to relate to people, and everyone eats more or less. Salt and vinegar chips. 100%.
And eggnog. Whoever said that.
Eggnog.
Random story about eggnog. I bought eggnog on my birthday 5 days ago. And then I woke up 2 days later and nobody else in my house drinks eggnog except me. And it was one of those like big, like half-gallon ones. And like the entire carton is nearly empty. And I don't know where it went. So we're all confused because like none of us drank it. So I think there's an eggnog thief in my neighborhood. Just saying. Watch out for your eggnog.
I think someone lied about whether or not they drink eggnog in your house. Just a guess.
So my mom has a so my parents are both, well, technically all three of us are immigrants, but like my mom, right? She just can't like process the fact that there's raw egg in it, even though it's pasteurized. So she's just like, I can't drink that. And my dad doesn't like nutmeg. So I don't know. Whack.
Does anyone want to talk about anything that they put? Just feel free to unmute. Clear framed glasses. Oh, I totally agree. I think Jeff has clear framed glasses. Jeff, our board chair. Do you actually? Oh, God.
Oh, I can elaborate about mine. I said New
Please.
Girl. I feel like it's very similar to Friends, but we don't talk about New Girl enough. I think New Girl's way better than Friends. The comedy is just like very witty and subtle, and everyone should go watch it. Definitely recommend.
I'm just liking Jeff's face.
Along the lines of New Girl, we binged it all this summer as a family, and it is so good, and we loved it. And our family group chat is literally called LLS, Ladies Love Schmidt. And then we have, as our like group photo or whatever, we have like a picture of the whole loft. Oh my goodness, I love it so much.
Madison, should we go to the next question?
Yeah, we can go ahead and move
Cool.
on.
Awesome. All right, so what is something unconventional that you do that serves you / your mission? Madison, does my answer pop up after? Because I can yeah, okay, we can just talk about it after. Great.
Yeah.
So whoever put the work when everyone is asleep, do you wake up really early or you go to bed really late?
Oh, that was me. It can go either way, actually. I think during school, I tend to wake up earlier, but especially during the summer or during quarantine, I usually stay up until, I don't know, 6 a.m. to do work because I don't have any
Wow.
distractions that way.
What would you say you're most distracted by during the day?
Probably like text messages, mostly. Yeah.
It's funny. I realized that that thing about text messages, and I realized that I had as much to blame about being distracted about text messages as other people because I would start the threads, right? So if you start a thread, how can you blame people for replying to you?
Yeah, true.
All right. Stay up at night to do things that enrich me personally. School doesn't leave much time for personal enrichment. So true. Make my schedule packed every single day. I feel like all of you are just do so much. Does anyone actually carve out time to like just where you might call like flex time or just like true like do whatever you want that isn't related to like your goals time? Can anyone speak to that?
4 a.m.
Oh, sorry. It's fine. You can go.
No, you can go ahead. I've already talked a bit. You go.
All right. Well, I have a really specific itinerary. So every day I put down all the work that I need to do. And then whatever time that I get afterwards, I put it towards relaxing. But most days I don't really relax.
For me personally, like this week, it's the week before finals week. And then almost my teachers, since we're remote, they're giving us like unit tests online. And then next week we have like finals. And then I'm also in a bunch of other extracurriculars. And like this week has just been like, I haven't been getting sleep or anything. So for me personally, it's like Monday through Friday, I'll just work on everything. And then Saturday, I don't really do much unless there's something scheduled and I'll just hang out with my friends. And then Sunday's kind of like when I get back into it and do all my assignments and stuff.
Cool. That structure is important.
Honestly, I feel like in some ways, like the work that you do can be kind of chill time. Like, for me, mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was like 5 years old. She's in remission now, but because of that experience, I started raising funds for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And the actual campaign itself is in February, but like there's a lot of prep work to do. And just like knowing that the thing that I'm doing is like going to the benefit of people, like that gives me a sense of like inner peace. Cause like I feel like school a lot of the time, it doesn't just make you physically tired, it makes you mentally tired. Like your brain is like, I can't keep up with this anymore. So like I feel like doing things for other people or like volunteering, whatever it is, like one, exercise and just like physical strain, endorphins, all that. So that makes, your head feel a little clearer. And also, just the fact that you're doing something for other people. I feel like that also, makes your head a little lighter. So
Well said. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, so for me, I find a lot of like relaxing when I work out because I am an athlete. So I'm doing something every day, whether it's practice with my team or just like at home in my basement. And that time for me, like I'll turn on the TV and I just try and forget about school and whatever else is going on for a while. And I kind of just get to like decompress. And I also feel good afterwards because I was like being productive.
Yeah, I love that. I was just talking to one of our community members about how often so I'm usually never in the mood to work out, but I've realized, well, now it's probably common sense to a lot of you, that when you're not feeling great or tired, often working out makes you more awake and in a better mood. So it's almost like do the opposite of what you're feeling sometimes. All right, I really want to hear from the person that said not speak for the day. Can you elaborate on that?
I'm a singer, so in order for me to like prepare for a performance, I won't speak for a day sometimes.
It's funny because I feel like that could be useful for other people as well, right?
I definitely hear a lot that I don't normally.
Oh, in your head?
Wow, that is so wow. I mean, not talking for a day.
It's hard.
Wow, I can't even imagine.
Like a silent retreat, like a self-imposed silent retreat. Talia, what do you mean you don't hear things, like you hear things that you don't normally? Is it in your head / in the environment?
It's both. It's when you take that little bit of time or a long time to like quiet down, you pick up on little nuances in people's conversations that weren't there before or that were and that you just didn't notice.
That's beautiful. And you started for a different reason, but I don't know, it almost seems like we wouldn't be surprised that you keep it up. Even if you stop singing like so competitively or frequently.
Yeah, it's a cool little social experiment.
Can I ask you a question if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, Talia, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course.
How do you deal with the questions? What do you tell people?
Oh, I'll answer people when they speak directly to me, but I'll, if I don't need to be speaking, then it's not a very strict, like I cannot say a single word.
Okay. Thank you.
That makes sense. Do people have, and by the way, this is going to go in directions that the point of this is to be really organic. So an interesting question that is coming from this is, do people have really loud inner monologues, and like, what is your relationship to it? Anyone can speak up about that.
I have a tendency to like make up scenarios in my head, apart from the fact like what happens with me. I tend to like make up stuff inside my head and then sometimes actually act it out. So yeah, my inner monologue is
like in your room.
Yeah, like in the room or like whenever I'm alone or bored, I tend to act out like what's going on in my head. And somehow that usually helps me get a better perspective on what's happening. And so yeah, my inner monologue is pretty loud.
Yeah, so Nayeli, Jeremy, Adam, Laura, Shreya, Annalise, all of you do that. That's funny.
Wow, I thought I was the only one. This feels so good. This feels so much better.
So
I'm
on
not
that.
the weirdo.
No, I mean yeah. Everyone. I don't know. I just feel like everyone's a little crazy in all sorts of good ways. Do you ever have like conflicting kind of voices in your head?
Oh, I have those conflicting voices in my head. It's just when I'm trying to make a decision, it'll always be these two narrators inside. They're like, okay, do this. It's like, the devil and the angel. So that's what makes it really hard to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know if I'm the only one here. So
You aren't alone.
You're
Trust me.
definitely not.
You're not alone, trust me.
Like not
It
at all.
happens so often, it's not even okay at this point.
Yeah,
Agree.
sometimes I can't think because everyone's talking in my head.
Yeah. So for me personally, my internal monologue is usually just quiet until I have a problem, or like it happens so fast that I don't like register it happening. So like when I have a problem though, I'm basically just walking around somewhere or just sitting there in pensive silence because and people look at me like I'm insane because I'm just sitting there because I usually talk a lot, as you guys can tell. But I'm just sitting there in utter silence and everyone's like, what are you doing? I'm like, give me a second. I need to hear what these people are saying in my head and then I'll talk to you. Like, just hold on. Go stand over there. I'll get to you later. So yeah.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Does anyone resonate with that?
I just wanted to add on to that actually. So I think a lot of people's inner monologues are extremely loud because like it's preventing themselves from doing something they love just because they don't know the outcome of a situation. And I think that's like what goes on in our head a lot, like between school and like keeping different environments balanced and stuff like that.
I actually find that kind of funny because every time I'm faced with like a situation that has even a minor conflict, I tend to look at it from so many points of view. I forget why I support my point of view in the first place, and that tends to like make me lose sight of why the conflict happened in the first place.
Yeah. So Freya, what makes you even take an initial stance in the first place? Is it just like your gut stance, like gut reaction?
So usually if a conflict happens, you have an initial opinion because of say previous knowledge or just something that you believe in, and then slowly like the voices in your head start giving you the opposite person's view and a third person view and a fourth person view, and then you just kind of tend to forget why it happened. So yeah.
That's really awesome. Thanks for explaining how that works. I think more people need to do that, honestly. It seems like you do that really naturally. Adam, do you want to speak? Feel free to unmute or not. But you said, yes, me too. I always do the worst case scenario in my head before making a big decision. You want to talk about how you do that?
Yeah, so I always do that because like I fear like bad outcomes because yeah, I don't know why, but whenever I'm doing like something like really big, like it's life-changing, I always yeah, so I always like think about the worst case scenario, even though it's probably not gonna happen. So
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. Because like you're so scared of failing. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail. So you kind of push yourself to do the best you can. Because I mean, I think this is what I do, because I'm so scared that I'm going to like not do my best and not keep up with expectations. And that's how my brain works, I guess.
Yeah, so that's what I also do. Like, I always think about the worst case scenarios. Like when I was running for junior class vice president, and then I ultimately lost. Because even I was thinking there that I have a chance to win, but instead I lost, and I was actually very nervous about the election because it's like it's just too competitive, And that's, well, I'm not really sure what I'm talking about now. Okay. So basically that I always just keeps walking around back and forth. That's just my nervous traits, because I'm just thinking a lot about the election, my junior class vice president election. So what I do is go back and forth, and yeah.
Totally.
I get that. I for whenever I have like a major test or something, so our grade percentages are very weighted, and I've known how to calculate that for a very long time, so much so that people always ask me to calculate their grades for them. But what I always end up doing is I end up grabbing my calculator and going, okay, what happens if I get an absolute 0 on this test? And I'm like, okay, my grade will be a C minus. It's not that bad. I'll be okay. You know, like I might have to take the class again, but like I'll be fine. So, and even if it is like an actually like bad situation that's about to happen, like just knowing what the bad thing is helps you like put the entire problem into context and like get the bigger picture of it so you can actually like puzzle it out. So
do you think it's more helpful or like unhelpful to think like only of the worst case scenario? Like, do you think it's ever like good to like prepare for the worst, or do you think it just gets in the way of like following what you want to do?
I honestly, I put both into account. Like, well, my midterm test just came in, and before that, it was like my grade literally depended on that midterm. So I was like, okay, best case scenario, I get 100% on this mid, and my percentage is like 2% over the grade cutoff. Worst case scenario, I like, so the whole point of like calculating a worst case scenario for me is just putting the thing in context. So if you put it in context, I feel like it's a lot like, you know, the statement, blood is thicker than water. If you say it like that, it sounds like you're saying that familial ties are stronger than like, you know, chosen bond ties. But the actual sentence, the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which says exactly the opposite. So I feel like putting things in context like that, like, helps you understand the reality of a situation. So
If I mean, I think I have a different take on that, because that for me, I don't look at the best case scenario, because it ends up kind of, it becomes my how do I say this? It's like my comfort zone. I start imagining and reimagining the best case scenario. Thereby, I'm not motivated to put so much effort into getting there. So I kind of try and not imagine the best case scenario and stick to the worst case scenario. It's not the healthiest thing you can do, but yeah.
I wonder if people have certain natural biases towards positivity versus negativity, need to consciously create the other side in their head so there's more balance. Does anyone actively try to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that like, oh, sorry.
You can go. No, you can go.
Okay, so this is like an idea from like Stoicism, this philosophy that I really enjoy. It's called like premeditatio malorum. It's like thinking about the worst possible thing that could happen. And in some cases, this is because like if that actually happens, you want to be prepared in some sense. Like you want to think about how you'd react to it or what would be necessary in that situation. But also because you want to be able to appreciate when something good happens even more. And so when you're thinking through that lens of this is the worst thing that could happen, first of all, you might realize that the worst thing that could happen isn't actually that bad. But beyond that, even if you do have to consider this like really like scary possibility, if it doesn't come to pass, you'll be grateful. And if it does come to pass, you'll be more prepared.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, that is really good. I will 100% use that. Thank you.
Yeah, Jordan, do you want to share any cool Stoicism videos that you recommend in the chat? I think there seems to be a lot of interest in it.
Oh, I can look, I guess.
Oh, I mean, no worries. Yeah, no worries.
I recommend more like reading. Like
books.
Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is really good.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, such a good book. So Marcus Aurelius, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan. He was you could technically an emperor, or emperor, right? Yeah. And he was a rare emperor that regularly reflected on his position of responsibility and power to stay grounded. Really, he would meditate on what actually is, what and just think about the gravity of the situation, and also, he would reflect on his death, quite frankly.
Yeah. So the book Meditations is essentially his personal journal that wasn't intended to be read by anybody else. So when you read this book, it's like you're getting a lot of insight into how he kept himself on track, how he reminded himself to follow his principles and lead his life in a way that was fulfilling and seek out the more meaningful things and avoid his vices. There are a lot of passages where he's just like reminding himself to like treat other people kindly, or he's reminding himself to stick to his principles no matter what happens in any situation.
No doubt. I think you're really gonna like our obituary exercise that we're gonna have as a optional exercise in a couple of months. All right. What's another one? Go outside and dance with the moon. Anyone want to talk about that? Whoever put that, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I put that down. So for me, I guess just a really good way to like kind of meditate and like when the day's over, just like relax is to just go outside and look at the moon and like kind of just get all my cares and everything out of the way.
Yeah.
Be able to be free and just like not really care about who's watching or all the things I struggle with during the day.
That's beautiful. Nature.
It's actually really cool, especially like if you can see the stars along with the moon. It somehow just gives you a sense that you're like a really tiny part of what's happening around you. And I kind of think that that gives you like just a sense of inner peace more than anything.
Okay, wow. The people who can see the stars in the night are lucky people. Where I live, there is literally no stars. Forget stars. Sometimes you can't even see the damn moon. So, yeah.
Where do you live?
Mumbai. We were like,
So
yeah, same.
Yeah, we're like pollution hub. So,
Yeah.
not expected.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, we, for the most part, don't think about what we actually have. And really until you've actually met a lot of people, or, listened to a lot of podcasts, just been exposed to people either in person or through other means, you don't know like what your life is. Like a lot of what you define yourself as is, and what you have or don't have is in relation to other people. So it's always, and this does actually relate a lot to Stoicism, just keeping perspective and seeing things as they are. We'd love to hear from the person that said, I calendarize everything. My agenda is full of things that don't need to be in there, but I need to write down every second of my day, or everything is spinning out of control.
That was me. Okay, so I have like this agenda planner thingy for my schoolwork. And if it's not full enough, I look at it and I feel like I'm not doing enough. So I'm putting like stupid things like eat breakfast.
Sounds like Madison.
Go on a walk. Because then I'm like, okay, now my planner's full for the day and it looks good. So now I can do all of it in order.
Does anyone resonate with that?
I don't think it's helpful.
I do.
Oh my God. Yes, I do. Wow. Someone wanted to go ahead. Please do.
I resonate with that actually. I have an entire agenda that I always fill out and constantly keep track of. And if something's not in my agenda, I'll have a mental breakdown.
Yeah, I started using the Notion app that was due to this fellowship thing, and I am obsessed with it. I keep filling it in, removing data from it, add, remove, and I am obsessed. And the moment I see that today's plan is not good enough, I'm like, oh my god, I have to do stuff. So I'm like continuously telling myself, you have to do stuff, Namishka. You have no option. So yeah.
I see Lucy nodding her head and showing her planner. Yeah.
I tend to
I'm gonna
agree with
piggyback.
Adam.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. No, finish. It's okay.
Okay. I'm gonna piggyback off of some of the people in the chat. I am the exact opposite. So I sign up for so many things, and it's not because like I have like a chronic work addiction or something. It's probably exactly the opposite. It's just I see things that I get excited about, and I'm like, I want to do that. And so then I go do it. And then what ends up happening is that my like entire life gets so busy. I just want to sit still for like 20 minutes. Like everyone says I'm an extrovert, but like the meaning of extrovert and introvert are really, do you recharge with people or do you recharge without people? After a full day of dealing with humans, I need a solid 20 minutes to myself to just sit there. So I feel like those pockets of time where you can just, like that's kind of one of the good things about being in quarantine is those pockets of time exist more where you can be like, oh, my legs are cramping up, I'm going to go downstairs, just and like go up and down the stairs. But then you end up seeing your parents at the like counter drinking a cup of coffee. You sit down with them and have like a 15-minute conversation. So I feel like if I planned out every second of my day, then those little pockets wouldn't have like as much opportunity to form. And like I don't know, like those little pockets of time are really what I appreciate most about life. So yeah.
Totally. I feel like I overplan so much, and like I have 7 things going on at once, and like doing homework for one class during another, and then during study hall I'll like sit down and just like not think about absolutely anything for like 15 minutes and like be in like a time warp. And I think like the funness and like the like it all comes from like the unpredictability, and like if you're planning out all of your time, you don't have those moments of rest.
Yeah.
And those like moments where like I'm staring off into space, like you kind of think like that's just like your body like taking control and being like, you gotta chill out for a sec.
I tend to agree with Abby, like a big time. It just depends on the amount of work I do just depends on how I wake up and feel. Like there's a certain days I know I'm supposed to do things, but I just won't, even if I have a deadline, because I just don't feel like it. And I guess at some point of time all of us do that because we just don't we're just been sloging through the week so much that we just like, let's get it over with now. Let's just take a rest day. And yeah.
Yeah, when stuff like starts piling up for me, because I know we're like talking about like when things get too stressful, when stuff just starts piling up for me, I just try to remind myself that like I'm a human living being. And so I just like to sit there and I literally just empty my brain, and I purposefully just don't think about anything. Like when I find myself thinking about like someone or something or some schoolwork, I purposely like concentrate my brain to not think about anything and just focusing on my breathing and reminding myself that wow, because sometimes I just forget, like I just take existing for granted, and I just forget that we're like living things, like actually living. It just gets past me sometimes, and sometimes it's just when things get stressful, I just have to like center myself, literally center myself, and just remind myself I'm a human living thing, and that you know I just have to calm myself down and just empty out my brain, not think about anything, just focus on breathing, focusing on being alive, just focusing on like the present. Because I personally, for me, I'm always like thinking of the future. Yeah, and then it does end up wasting a lot of time, but I feel like we deserve it because after like all the stuff we put ourselves through, we just deserve it. But yeah, I just like to center myself and just myself that we're human, and it just gets too much. And I feel like if we don't, we just end up spiraling.
Couldn't agree more. Madison, I think this is probably good. Nor, I think this is probably good to move to the next. Yep. So this actually relates to most of what we talked about. So every morning I run outside in the cold with just a t-shirt on and shorts. And I know it's unconventional, but I know that there's a lot of chaos in my brain, and there's a lot of thoughts happening all the time. The thing that calms me down has actually trained my brain outside of the cold times to just focus on what's happening in my body, right? Not focus on what other people are thinking about me, not focused on what could go wrong, right? It's like, it's cold as shit, right? It's like I get so happy that I'm thinking about just that, right? And also, it's adding on to that. It's being able to learn how to tolerate suffering, right? So what I believe is that if you don't actively choose your suffering, life kind of choose that suffering for you, right? And you actually have to practice learning how to deal with the harshness of life. I mean, this whole discussion has been so good. Let's see. Anyone have a response to what I just said?
I have another thing to add to something somebody said in the chat. Someone said that sometimes I waste time thinking and find out I wasted 30 minutes thinking randomly. Something that I've read recently was that one of the biggest problems with our generation, I'm quoting this exactly, not my words, but was that we don't spend enough time empty thinking because we have a TV to look at. We have schoolwork to do. We have constantly something happening. So because of the fact that we don't sit and think, we don't come up with new ideas as much, and we don't come up with like innovations, inventions, that kind of thing. So the fact that you sat there and wasted 30 minutes of time thinking, that's actually like really important and says something about you and your character, and it honestly means that you are a creative human being and you're going to go on and do awesome things. So I just wanted to say that you did not waste 30 minutes. Those were constructive 30 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, because I remember the last conversation we had, and we like hit a point where we said like we weren't supposed to live like this. We always have a screen in front of our faces like all the time. And that just hit me so much, because I'm like, there's just no way my brain is supposed to develop the way it is. And so when you said like this empty thinking is so crucial for it, because it is like we're in our minds are not supposed to be, paying attention to something. Like I just don't I don't know. Personally, I just don't think that's how it's supposed to be, because it's always been like that. I've always been distracted by something. There's always something to do. There's always something to work on. There's always something to watch. There's always something to think about. And it's just so tiring. I just feel like that's what tires me out the most, because there's just like what Gary said, like there's just so much going on in this chaotic brain, and it just can get so much too much. And that's why empty thinking is so important, because like empty thinking, at one point you have to empty out that chaotic brain. You have to let that chaotic brain out, and just for once put that brain to rest, because the only rest, even when we're sleeping, we really don't rest. We dream. And so even I wake up from a nap and I'm stressed because of that dream was just too much for me. So I can't even like empty think when I'm sleeping. So I guess like everything is so important, because there's just times like I feel like every single day should be times where we just need to calm down, like let ourselves just not think. Not thinking is so important. That's really what I'm trying. Not thinking is more important. Although it's like how we get our money, how we live, how we survive. At some point, you just thinking it just shouldn't be as crucial. I don't know.
Yeah, so I really like this idea of like setting aside time to be alone with your thoughts. And I want to tie it back to what Gary was saying earlier about like running and kind of making yourself more comfortable with suffering in general. It's like making yourself comfortable with being uncomfortable, because boredom is uncomfortable after we've been like trained all the time to like constantly like have our attention fulfilled by something and never have this like blank time. Just being able to sit there can sometimes be uncomfortable. Being able to like slow down and just be with your thoughts can be uncomfortable. And so then like trying to make yourself more accustomed to that is another form of like familiarizing yourself with suffering of some kind, which I think is like really good for you, really like mentally and personally.
I actually have like a counter side to this. I mean, I completely agree with the fact that not thinking actually gets you more ideas, but there's a lot of us that tend to get afraid of being with our own thoughts because sometimes like they're pretty destructive. It usually depends, especially for people dealing with mental illnesses and stuff, like for them to like stay alone with their thoughts becomes like pretty scary. Like even for me, there are times when I don't like staying with myself because I know I'll probably end up overthinking a situation that doesn't need to be overthought. Or I will tend to make up scenarios that aren't going to exist, but I will convince myself that they do. And in that process, I kind of like, lose track of the not thinking part of it. And so usually I've I tend to find that it doesn't always work. Like not thinking doesn't always work. It might at times be destructive for someone doing it.
Can I give you a potential solution?
Yes,
So
please, please.
for me personally, I have like I have chronophobia. So like at night, especially when I like if I like by accident look at a clock and see a minute ticking over, like my brain starts spiraling because like the thing about because I'm a very scientific oriented person, and while I love the humanities, like when you put human life in context with the universe, it's kind of insane, right? Like your mind can't really like hold in your head. So I agree with that. Sometimes your thoughts are scary, and like sometimes my brain would start racing so fast that like that was one of the reasons why I had such a bad sleep schedule in like 7th and 8th grade because I kept thinking so much that I stayed up till 5 and that like like completely destroyed my brain. So what I have found is something that occupies just enough of your brain that you can't stray into bad things but you can stray into good things. So for me that is this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous. Like I'm just going to say it outright. Like my example sounds absolutely ridiculous. But my mom crochets and sometimes when you're crocheting like the yarn spool thing like it starts unfolding unevenly and then the tension gets all whack. So my mom has me like roll her balls of yarn for her and I have found that is like such an absurdly like good thinking mechanism. Like I don't know why. Like,
Yeah.
when I start like
Wow.
winding yarn, I start thinking of life and metaphors with the yarn, but like I can't like think anything bad about it. Like it's just yarn.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
So
But
also like at night, if you have the problem going to sleep, just play like a
a
soothing
song.
soundtrack in the
Yeah.
back. I listen to Rain.
So the
I'm oblivious now, but yeah, so Rain.
so the thing with me is I'm not like so if I'm with someone else and I'm listening to their conversations or just zoning out even when like someone else is talking, it isn't much of a problem to me. But say it's night and I'm all alone in my room, like not because I'm awake, just because I have nothing else to do. And I will tend to like go into a spiral of thoughts with like one intrusive thought. And yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it's pretty scary.
Yeah,
Can I
so
say something really
the
quick?
Rain soundtrack is good for that. Yeah, go ahead.
So I think we've mentioned both extremes of like focusing too much on our own thoughts and then not focusing at all, right? And I think sometimes like relaying back to the inner monologue part, we need to just actually take a break and like be in the present maybe, and just reflect on ourselves, not on anything bad or positive, just like ourselves, how far we've come, what we want to do in the future, but nothing to impact our stress levels or the pressure that is like from our outside environments. I think that's like one thing a lot of people like foresee and don't talk about enough.
Yeah, if I mean, I don't know. I mean, just to add to what you said, kind of feel personally when I sit to reflect, I end up going to the very extremes of what happened. So, for example, if something minor happened, I will sit and analyze so much that I will create it in my mind that, oh my God, this is so bad. It's like the worst thing that could happen to you. But it might not be the case. And yes, and I mean, I think all the athletes in the group will agree with me. When you run or you jog or you do exercise. I normally prefer to do it without, with earphones and with music, because when you're alone and you're running or you're playing, you're so much, at least when you're running, when you're doing some when you're playing a sport, you're more into the sport. But when you're running, you're kind of just in your head. And for me, it becomes so redundant that, okay, at one point in time, the running thing was less running and more overthinking. So, and I feel music is a really good way to distract yourself from your thoughts. But at the same time, music is also a bad way to distract yourself from your thoughts. So,
Well, I just wanted to say,
Also.
like, I think music is actually a good way to reflect, because I think sometimes we pick music to help ourselves, like, realize what's going on in our life, or maybe it doesn't have anything to do with it at all. And we're just trying to, like, be content in the moment, too. So I think actually music is a perfect way to reflect, like, on yourself.
I think the main reason that most of us end up overthinking instead of like just not thinking is because we're thinking of things that happened in our life or might happen. Like we're thinking of scenarios that would have happened and what could have been different over there, or what might happen or what you're gonna do, instead of thinking of things that are bigger than just you and your life. And I mean, like Prakriti said, like she tends to think about like metaphors and life and stuff when she's doing her yarn thing. Uh, she isn't focusing just on like what she's gonna do or what's gonna happen with her. And I think that's where the not thinking part comes in. Like that's where it becomes like beneficial.
So I'm gonna hop in here. Sorry to stop the flow, but I know we only have about 10 minutes left, and this is a really good conversation. So Gary, are you good with staying on for like at least another 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'm down if others are down.
All right, and I mean, you all obviously feel free to go at any time, but just wanted to make sure that Gary had some time as well.
Yeah, I just have one more thing to say about like the music thing. So like the power of music, like what everyone else was talking about. So like during school and stuff, I'll get like stressed about, oh, this is due tonight, or like I have to finish this, but I have something else going on. And I dance, so like the nights that I go to dance, I'll be all stressed and like I don't know, just like all messed up. But then once I start dancing, I'll be like completely in my zone and just like not think about anything else, and it just like goes away. Like it's just crazy.
So, Lauren, that really resonates with me. I danced for a lot of high school. I danced all of college, mostly hip hop, but a few different things. Such a great escape, and I get into flow state while doing this meaningful work. Just to kind of reference Prakriti, I think you were the one that was talking about meaning, doing meaningful work. But the arts are that's why the arts are just so important, especially if the arts are not imposed on you, because it's like it's expressing a lot of like what's ineffable, right? Otherwise, so poetry can express things that like a logical essay cannot, fully express. And actually, on the note of what is all that is like effable and ineffable in your brain, how do you decide what to share with like your parents? I'm curious. Anyone could jump in.
I mean, if you have to sit and filter out what you share with your parents and what you don't, I guess you can do that. But personally, for me, my mother is more like a friend, and she's used like a ranting device. When I'm sad or when I'm angry, I kind of just go and rant. I don't think she even listens, but it's like,
I tend to like, so there used to be a point of time till I was like 10, 11, when my mom knew everything that happened like in my day and my daily life. But then I don't know, like it somehow just changed at some point of time. Like she knows what happens with me. She knows about my social life, my school life, but she I don't think anyone in my family actually like knows anything apart from that. And I don't really, I prefer it that way, honestly, because since place where I live, it's not as um ha- not as open-minded, I guess. Just that even mental health issues aren't, as discussed. And I tend to think that if I were to give out my own opinion about something, it would usually be ignored or like spoken over, and it's usually considered wrong because, I mean, I'm still not as old as them. And so I usually tend to keep like what happens with me to myself.
I have a question to ask if you don't mind. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Wow, great. I forgot my question. I'm so dumb.
Happens to me all the time. Don't worry.
I am so dumb. God.
Feel free to
Give
jump
me a
in.
sec. It'll come back.
Yeah, come back. At Madison, should we jump to the next question?
Sure.
All right. So, yeah, take a second to process this question. But what do you see / sense that other people around you don't? Right. And so one way to help you figure out what this is like in your mind, you're like, wait, you didn't notice that, or like you may consistently see like something as really great or something as really deserving of pessimism, right? That other people don't. All right. So the other perspectives on an issue. So when is it obvious that that is the case? Is it like when you're hanging out with friends that you see certain perspectives that they don't?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just try to make not anything be like too definite. I just know that like some people, they're just gonna be very much like those people are wrong, I am right. And I try to just like remove that urge. I try to see like what other ways, what could be wrong with this way of thinking.
Right.
And I mean, there's always something wrong that you can find, right? So I always try to figure out what's wrong with this way of thinking, what's right with this way of thinking, what's wrong with my way of thinking, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Love that. Thank you, David. Anyone resonate with that?
Yeah, I can go. I was thinking about that what you said and about think into things that people like usually think. In my case, I think that so many times I feel more for other people, not I don't for me, but the case that if I'm talking to you, like I try to be focused in what you're saying, like think in this moment, not in anything else. So it's like if I put all my attention on someone when I'm talking, it's like really nice experience because I can know the other person more than instead of say something, I want to think and learn about what someone is saying. And I think it's really cool because so many time ago I didn't do that, but now I think that I learned so many things about people. Like I mean, it's the first time I talking, but like in my classes I'm like always talking like in the normal school classes, but now I'm trying to listen, and I think I learned so many things if I listen, like so many experience and ideas. So I think that's nice, as you said that, yeah, random things that happen, but we can learn from it.
I think there's a Buddhist quote: "If your mouth is open, you're not learning." And that's not entirely true because there's multiple voices in your head often, and like even I guess that voice believes that. So it's like talking can be good for self-knowledge, right? Because you can sort of, a metaphor that I've found is helpful is like there's kind of a community living here. Ideally, they're working together. Sometimes you want to deny that one of the members exists. Anyways, that's there's so much that we could say about that. Okay, so someone said that they sense that our time is too valuable to give it away to digital distractions. I love that. I love how you answered it that way. Do you want to talk about that?
So I think this is like a big problem, obviously, in the digital age, is that like a lot of our time is consumed by these things that are like outside of our control. Like when you decide to sit down and spend time on social media, you're giving away your attention to this corporation to make them profit. They have different goals than yours. And this like dominates our society. It's very normalized to waste like a lot of time there. And it's not necessarily that like I can escape this entirely myself. Like these are very alluring things to be able to just unplug and not think for a little while with like distractions. Yeah, certainly. But I feel that most people don't acknowledge it for the enormous problem that it is when considering like time is like all we have. Like how we use our time is what our life is. And so if your time is dominated by these distractions that you don't have control over, I feel like it's really problematic. And I don't think that a lot of people are like focusing on this or trying to alleviate it.
Well said. Anyone resonate with that?
Yeah, so for me, I do try to like take control of my time, but like these distractions, they keep coming back. I try to get rid of them, but then a few days later they come back, and then I go on social media for like a few hours, and I realize that a few hours of my life was wasted on there. So yeah, it does suck a lot.
I don't know if this is weird, but like I hyper focus on fast moving objects and like any motion. Like because I keep moving, I keep shaking my leg or something. And if even like in the peripheral vision of mine, if something moves, I'm always like, oh, what was that?
Yeah. So how does that affect where you decide to study, for example?
Oh, don't talk about it. Like when I sit to study, I'm half of the time I'm not looking at the book. I'm either looking at something that's moving, or I'm thinking about what happened during the day. Yeah,
Feel that.
I try, but I don't can't perfectly figure it out.
Yeah. To kind of all of your points, once I started to admit that I'm easily distractible, easily addicted to things, I was able to design my life to be less hijacked by those things. So I literally don't have the Instagram app on my phone. What else? I only go to the Civics Unplugged office like once or twice a week because most of the work can be done through other means, but also a lot of it is like focused creative work that requires me to not be distracted for extended periods of time. So, one way to think of it is like there's like a baby Gary or like a baby insert your name. That's like you got to protect that baby's attention, right? It's like, well, all right, baby Gary, we just got to get this one thing done. All right, this hour is dedicated to this one thing. That's it. No distractions. Airplane mode. Yeah, I mean thank you, Lucy.
I'm going to do that for sure now. It's just like today itself.
Well, also, baby is a good way to think of especially if you like babies. If you don't like baby, like because it's like you're realistic about what the baby can do, and you love the baby though, right? And it's also helpful sometimes, and I won't admit to this that widely, but sometimes it's helpful to think about other people as babies and be like, oh, like the way that they're acting is like I get it, right? I get it. There's a part of them that is reacting in a way that is I get it, right? Like the little Gary would act that way as well, right? So I think it just really helped my compassion a lot. And anyways, yes, please try this out for yourself, starting with yourself, and let me know.
Wait, something about the recognizing your weaknesses thing. So I have noticed that so my leadership teacher had a very good analogy for this, but I can't remember what it was. I will get back to you on that. But basically, like there's certain people in the world who like to like suck your energy out of you. So I have noticed because I'm
energy vampire, is that the metaphor?
That one. Thank you.
Yep.
My brain completely just blanked on me there. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but basically, I personally I'm very open with like how I feel in the moment most of the time. Because I think that vulnerability is one of the most courageous things you can do. And I know that to build good relationships, you know, vulnerability is important. And if I don't do that first step, other people aren't likely to do the same. So because I'm so open, I have noticed that I'm a very easy target for energy vampires. And the like, don't be offended, anybody who's on Twitter, but Twitter is the biggest place for energy vampires that I have ever seen. Like, I think I had Twitter for 2 months before I deleted it, because even though I don't follow anybody that, you know, I don't particularly like the content of, but those people will repost posts from people that are energy vampires, and then there's constant arguments about things that are like, you know, degrading and then bad for people, and I'm here like, I don't want this, because it just completely drains you. And I've noticed, you know, like, I have gotten very good at realizing the people that I am better off without, because I, you know, again, because I'm open and everyone kind of, you know, recognizes the fact that I'm an easy target in that way. But at this point, people have learned not to take advantage of me, because I have very much learned the people who can burn me. And like, the moment I notice red flags, I'm like, you're out, because I know myself, I will keep forgiving you, and that is horrible for me and also horrible for you, because you're not going to get better. So I'm going to like cut myself off from this. And like, something that I think we talked about earlier, you know, like the being alone with your thoughts thing. I feel like loneliness or just being alone is something that we've all, like, as a society, learned to fear. I think Einstein had a quote about this, and he goes, I cherish the loneliness which, you know, which is something like pains those who are young, but is so delicious to those who are like older, or something like that. But the point is, like, these, like, the fact that you're alone isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, being on your own and learning to live, you know, with yourself as company is also very important, and also very important to your self growth. So yeah, that was my piece.
I totally agree with you. Especially that also kind of relates to like what I put on the board. Because like I value being alone. I am an extrovert. I do like talking to people, but I also really cherish my aloneness. Like, I'm alone at home right now, and I've been home alone since like 2:00 this afternoon. It's been like the best couple hours of my life. But it's just so frustrating, because like when I talk to my mom, like my mom and I don't really have a good relationship, if I'm being 100% honest with you guys. And so it's like, I don't want to get married. That's just not something I want to do. Like, maybe that will change, but like as of right now, like I think I'll be fine for myself for the rest of my life type thing. And she's like, well, no. And it's like, she is Christian and I am also Christian, but I am also like left in terms of politics, if that makes sense. Like, so I have really different views from like a lot of Christians. And so that's like what I put on my board, is that I was like, or on the Nearpod thingy, I was like, well, I sense different things than like people in my church, because like I sense that God would want us to give people rights, and and I sense that God would want us to care for the needy and provide like healthcare or whatever. And like, those are all just like my opinions, but it's like I also sense that, like, I don't know, God doesn't really care if we get married or not, because like that's not the point of our life type thing. And like, it's just really frustrating, because like that's kind of what my mom believes. She's like, well, women are here for kids, and I'm like, oh, okay. So like, I don't really know where I was going with that, but just like, I agree, there is so much like value in spending time with yourself, and just like being like not self-fulfilling, but self-reliant. So yeah.
Can I ask?
I actually want to pick up.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'll probably like go on talking, so that's all right.
All right. I wanted to ask the person who said, I try to look at everything with all my hats at once, if they're still here to elaborate.
Yeah, so that was me. So my friend group is really different from me in the fact that like we all get along, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be friends, but we have very different interests. Like a lot of them are into theater. I am not. And I just, whenever I see a situation, I try and think of it from my perspective, but also kind of like with the things that they've taught me that maybe aren't my opinions, but I can be like, okay, I see why you're saying this.
Yeah.
And it's a lot about empathy, like understanding where the other person's coming from. Even if you don't agree with it, you still have to say, okay, we can agree to disagree.
Love that. I didn't have a name for a similar thing that I do. What it feels like is like a bunch of different people like giving their assessment at once. How does it work for you? Is it like do you think of the list of hats and do you go one by one, or is it more subconscious, instantaneous?
I think it's subconscious because I feel like I've kind of absorbed some of those things into like one idea. Like I said earlier that I'm an athlete, but I'm also a student and I also play an instrument and I also like to draw. So I think just bringing in the different parts of yourself all at once to look at something instead of just assessing it in the situation that it's in can be really important.
That's awesome. Yeah, we could talk about that forever. I want to get to, I can see infrared. If you're still here, would love to hear that. I can see infrared. Otherwise, I can sense anyone that said I can sense people's emotions or vibes / energy. If anyone wants to talk about that, feel free to unmute.
Well, about the energy or vibe, I guess I can kind of do that. It's like intuition. So when I meet someone and they give their first impression, my intuition kind of gives an idea of like what kind of person they are. And usually I'm right, but I don't like to make that be the determining factor because a lot of times things change. So I think my intuition comes in really handy because sometimes my friends might need help, but they don't really say anything. And I can just tell from the way.
Does anyone resonate with that? That telling what's like on their friends' minds?
Yeah, I can.
I am usually like, my people close to me tend to tell me that I'm pretty naive. I don't like judge people in the first impression. Like I just don't tend to see them for what or who they might be. But I have a tendency to like get a vibe from a text. So like if I'm talking to you for more than 24 hours and you just send me a text that seems off to me, I will ask you about it. And usually something is wrong, like something is happening with them. I kind of like it and I kind of don't like it because over text people kind of just tend to not say anything. And that just kind of makes it seem as if I'm intruding. But when they do open up about something, like if that person is close to you, it comes in handy.
I agree. I am definitely a bottler. So again, I'm pretty vulnerable with what I'm feeling most of the time, but usually not why or like the specifics behind it. Like I'll usually be like, yeah, or if I'm like upset, I usually just typically say I'm tired because, I always have bags under my eyes. That's always an excuse. So, yeah. But because of that, I am very good at telling when other people are bottling. And that makes it very easy to figure out when one of my friends isn't doing great. And then just like the sensing vibes of people, I'm usually right when I say I don't like someone. Like if I have like a gut feeling that's like, they're not giving me great vibes, something is going to happen. I'm usually right. If I have good vibes about somebody, that does not always necessarily mean I'm right, but like the negative one, always on point. And a lot of my friends have disregarded my vibes before. And then they come back and they're like, Pro, remind me not to disregard you. I'm like, I have like 5 times already. I'll remind you again, but you won't listen to me. So it's okay. But like, you know, we all have to like figure it out ourselves sometimes. That's okay.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, me and my best friend, we both ended up being friends in the first place because our groups at the time were not great. And because we were, you know, with some bad people. So me and her are both like completely on sync about people at this point. So we can both literally point at a person and go, what's their vibe? Not good. Their vibe. Okay, decent. So yeah, that's, you know, I feel like, again, I wrote something about perspective, lived experience, colors perspective, which colors like how we view problems and how we view solutions. So like the fact that we both have been through exactly the same thing is why we see it exactly the same way. So yeah, I feel like that's important to recognize that, you know, sometimes your life and like what you go through affects how you see other people. Because again, like the bottling thing, I bottle, which is why I know other people bottle.
Yeah. On that note, what I've found is that if I've experienced something, certainly if I'm honest about that I've experienced something, if something's going on in someone else's life that is similar, the intuition is often very correct. But it's often really hard to admit when you're going through like a hard time and when certain thought patterns are existing. Does anyone resonate?
I have a slightly different take on it because, like, personally, I have learned to put a very, very good facade on myself and what I feel and how my emotions are and am I confident or not. And I feel like a lot of people have started putting this facade and um, I mean, for example, when I have something wrong, not a lot of people can tell because I'm so good at faking happiness. And I think a lot of people are very good at faking emotions, faking sadness, faking happiness. And because I do it very, very regularly, I'm very good at kind of saying, ki, okay, I know that's not true. I know that what you're showing is not really what you're feeling. And sometimes it does feel like I'm invading their privacy, but at the end of the day, people do kind of break apart and kind of just tell you what's wrong, you know?
Yeah, often it's they're I would say most of what people are dealing with, if you don't actually build a lot of trust with them and just ask point blank questions about what's going on, you can only help them so much, no doubt. Nora, can we go to the answer or whatever I put? I don't even remember. Oh, there we go. So this seems abstract, right? And so I sense how systems are unstable and unsustainable, and I'm able to identify a lot of areas in which certain systems have pathological slash self-defeating dynamics. What is a system? One type of system is your brain. Your brain is a system that is often self-defeating itself, and I think I personally feel really passionate about personal development and self-knowledge because um, if you uh, if you learn how to get yourself in harmony, that gives you tons of lived experience on how to help wider systems get into harmony, right? And so another system is your relationship with someone else, or your family, or your school community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone have any thoughts on this?
I actually do. So, the fact that you said that, once you're at harmony with yourself, that part I completely agree with. Like, once you're at peace with yourself, once you're satisfied with who you are, it becomes easier to like portray your own ideas to make where you are a better place. But like in terms of relationships with others, I don't think that actually really works because sometimes you tend to live in an environment that might not uh, you might not be satisfied with, and you can't do anything to change it.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So like you just kind of tend to go with it because you don't have an option.
Yeah.
And even then I feel like, you have the potential to change something around you. And so yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, practically speaking, very few of you have much ability to, like, let's say you see a bunch of issues with how your high school operates. Practically speaking, you just have to deal with almost all of it. And actually going back to the getting harmony internally, you just have to be brutally honest about the constraints that the high school is placing on you, right? And to whatever extent that you can, maintain, I guess, as sustainable of harmony as you can, right? Which and at the same time, recognize that it's really hard and forgive yourself, or just allow yourself to not be so good as well.
Yeah, that's certainly important. Like understanding the delineation between the things in your environment that you might be able to influence and those that you can't. Because if you stake your happiness upon anything that you can't control, you're bound to be disappointed at some point. So it's like that's another like really big Stoic tenet. Like I love that. It's like the dichotomy of control. You have to stake your happiness on the things that you can control, which is like your actions and your thoughts and the way that you perceive things. Yep. But then like back to this point of systems, I really like this idea of like understanding how systems like work together, like, and also looking at it from different levels, because individuals are systems, but then they also participate in systems around them. And I think this is something that a lot of people miss because we're raised in like a really hyper individualist culture.
Yeah.
So I think that it's certainly important to be able to see people as a part of a system and understand how systems influence people if you want to be able to address societal problems.
No doubt. All right. So next, so Bryce Lynn had the perfect opportunity to put, you have strong gaydar. We'll let you discuss that in the Discord chat. All right. Can we get to the next? Yep. What are you obsessed about? So this is the final question. What are you obsessed about getting good at?
So, for me, what I'm obsessed with getting good at is just improving myself. Like whenever I see a flaw, I try to improve it. Like sometimes I like do reflections where I like write down, like do like see like what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and try and improve what I'm not good at. It's usually a difficult process though to improve what you're not good at.
You sound like Gary.
Anyone else want to unmute and talk about what they're obsessed with getting good at?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, because we live in like a social media age, everybody wants to post and share like their best selves and the things that they're really good at. But I think that you have to be able to recognize your flaws first before you can improve them. So maybe you can say like, oh, I want to improve my ability to braid my hair, like just something small. But if you start small and work up to those goals, realizing that you were not good at it in the first place, I think you'll get much further than comparing yourself to other people and where they're starting and ending.
You know, I do agree with what you just said. And to give like a personal take on it, the people who know me will not agree with what I'm saying right now, because like, but I have this thing where I want to succeed in everything I do. I want to be the best at every damn thing I do. So like if I'm as simple as like, taking a small class or something, I want to be the best at it. I want to not my best, the best, like the best at the better than everyone, basically. And sometimes it's not something I can do all the time, because I mean I'm not an all-rounder, but I put so much pressure on myself that okay, you have to be the best. And yes, I keep comparing myself with everyone. I just saw that on the chat, so I picked it up. Yeah.
Okay, well, so I am like, I differ with you slightly in that so the thing with me is I'm an Indian girl, right? And I moved to the US when I was 5. And like from that moment after I was put in an ELA class because I said you know, I pronounced my like W's like V's. Like that day you know, I immediately like knew that I was different from these people and that like and even now my school is way more culturally diverse now than it was then, but um the thing is that when that happens, it's I can't compare myself to anybody anymore because like just somewhere in the back of my head I know that like we're all people, sure, but we all come from very different places, and the fact that I came from somewhere else immediately makes me think that of other people because humans, you know, we have a habit of self-projecting. So like I'll see somebody and I'll go, I know this person like grew up in a household that's different than mine. I know this person might have come from somewhere that's different than I did. And I think that's like kind of a very cool part of America is that it's a country founded by immigrants. It's a country that is nobody here except Native Americans were ever actually here first. Like we all immigrated here. So I think that's something very cool. But what happened then is that I started comparing me to myself. And because as a kid, I did pretty well in school, even though I recognize the fact that I'm taking AP classes, you know, it's a different ball game. Like if it's not, and like everyone makes jokes and sends me memes about like Indian parents being mean or something, and it's like my parents are actually super understanding about grades and things. They expect me to keep my grades because they know I'm capable of it, but like if I wasn't capable of it, they wouldn't expect that of me. And what's happened now is that I put that pressure on myself to like, and the other problem is that my school now is a lot more ethnically diverse. I come from a school of over 2,000 students. Like my high school, I was the president of a school of like a middle school of like 1,500 students, and our like average GPA is a 3.9. So like one grade falling gives me anxiety. Like I'm like that midterm I was talking about earlier, like I have never had a grade be that low for that long. Sorry, my Alexa's
Here's
reminding me to go to a meeting.
Attend honor society
Alexa,
meeting.
stop please. Thank you. Okay. But yeah, like that I've never had a grade be that low for like any period in my life. So I was just like, you know, I have to have it go up. But like I know that's not a reasonable expectation that, you know, I get because like especially college, having a 4.0 GPA in college is next to impossible. So yeah, just like I don't know why like my expectations haven't scaled with the level of my work, but like it's a thing, and that's the thing I'm obsessed with hitting. So yeah.
I think the reason it happens is because as kids, like we tend to achieve things and we tend to like do things. And then as we grow older, it kind of just like builds up on us. Like we did that when we were that age, so why can't we do it right now? And I can actually relate to that because as a kid I used to do a lot of things, and then now I don't do as many things, and then I put pressure on myself to do better at the things I do, and that makes no sense because even though I know I'm doing the best I can, I still feel like there is one step further I can go, and as unhealthy as that is, it's just how I work, I guess.
So I want to talk about just I want to add on to the concept of comparing yourself to other people. I think what a question I have is, do you find yourselves comparing all of the things that you do, all of your skills to different people that happen to be really good at the individual skills? So basically you're comparing yourself to like a superhuman, like collectively. So you're comparing your average or, you know, it's just not a fair comparison. So do you find yourself doing that? That's my question.
So for me personally, I am such a secure person. I am so proud of who I am. So I don't really compare myself to anybody except my older sister, Brooke. And I love her to pieces. She's my best friend in the whole entire world. But when it comes to like comparing myself to others, I fall into the comparison trap with her in like every single way. And I'm sure that that's partially due to the fact that like she's my mom's favorite and we live with my mom. So like that probably definitely plays into it. But I think that just like throughout the course of time, like I've had a lot of like I've literally had friends who were like my friends stop talking to me because they decided they wanted to be friends with her type thing. So it's just like a lot of factors of like ways that people have like treated me to now it's to the point where like I don't really compare myself to anybody else, but I compare myself to her type thing. So I don't really find that I compare like my different strengths to different people, but I just compare like all of me to all of her, if that makes sense.
I also do that a lot, but see, I play guitar, right? And I've been playing for 4 years, which sounds like a lot of time, but in reality, I don't feel like I've learned that much. So I'm constantly, when I'm trying to learn a new song, I compare myself to these musicians who have been playing the instrument for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is gonna sound weird maybe, but like I know Namishka talked about like being an all-rounder. I am too much of an all-rounder, if that makes sense. Like I'm like good at everything, but I'm not great at anything. So like I feel so like weirdly like I don't know, like I compare myself to people who have a thing, if that makes sense, because I feel like I don't really have a thing. So like Nayeli was just saying about playing for 4 years. I have been doing Taekwondo since I was 6. I have 2 black belts in Taekwondo, 1 black belt in Hapkido, and I'm testing for 3rd in Taekwondo. That sounds super impressive, but it's not.
I know we still have a minute, but I just want to make sure that you are all where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You should be.
So,
these are your group leaders.
wait, hold on. Something weird just
Natalie,
happened.
Nathan,
One
Jay,
second.
Nathan.
Okay, sorry, some weird audio just started up in the background. But yeah, what I wanted to say was basically what happens with me is because I'm at this level that is so high, I am around people who have been doing it all as long as I have, but like all of them have a certain thing that they're very good at. Like my friend Joshua, he is one of our head instructors. My friend Lito nearly won the Governor's Cup. So like, you know, like there's a lot of people that have a thing. And like I'm not saying like I'm jealous of like any particular thing or like I'm comparing myself to any particular thing. It's just the fact that they have a thing is pretty cool because like for me it's like I struggled on like trying to figure out like what the heck I'm even going to do in life because I don't have like a very strong suit in anything. I'm just like decent at everything. So yeah.
On that note, just to be mindful of everyone's time, I want to actually just share a wrap up thought on that. I think it's interesting that when we're growing up, we are it's kind of given like a menu of different things that you can be good at, right? But in this time where, how I would describe it is we're transitioning from in the old world that there's a lot good in it, right? But we're transitioning to a new world where there's different values, right? There's different vocations. There's and who knows how long the transition will be, right? But what I would just encourage you to all think about is you don't have to be like a star that's trying to fit into a circle hole, right? Like you actually a big part of the Civics Unplugged Fellowship is helping you figure out what your strengths are, your passions are, your values are, to reference you, who are your energy vampires and how do you distance yourselves from them and spend more time with people that energize you. So like you are the best at being yourself. Right now, it's unlikely that you actually know who you are, like who you will sustainably be, what are the core essence, right? But we're here to help you figure that out and also define who you want to be aspirationally, which all these things that we definitely don't talk about enough in society. And so, I mean, all this has been just music to my ears, that this is just naturally something that things that you think about. We're gonna have a great time. So Madison, do you want to share any final thoughts as well?
Yeah, I'm just blown away again because these sound like the conversations that we have in CU already, and so it's so good to hear from you all, and I'm very excited for the fellowship and to hear even more. We have another Unplugged conversation next week, which I will send more information hopefully tomorrow on that. But thank you all so much for coming and taking out the time in your night. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.